centering in on you. Why is it doing that?
Mm-hmm.
In my show. Oh, I guess we're live. Oh.
Yeah.
Greetings, Felix Jones. Felix Jones coming to you. Max Bauer allowed me to make the intro. We got a bone broth for the New World Order. The topic tonight, we got our colloidal silver. Oh, and when those nuclear bombs start falling, we have survival shield. Oh, yeah. We got all that. Storable foods. I have 20 years of storable foods. You can buy that on my website, www.conartist.com. Conartist.com. And here we go. Introducing Robert Breaker.
Hello, everybody. It's good to be here with you. Amen. Tonight's topic is the New World Order. The New World Order. We're going to talk about that. And I guess, oh no, I guess they just shut down your channel, Max. Oh no, it's back. Okay, good.
No, good. We're back. Just had to get rid of that alternate personality over there.
Okay.
It's what I do in my spare time.
Amen. Amen.
Brett will be coming, hopefully eventually. Right now, he's still sort of working. He's packing up and on his way home. That's how that is.
Okay. Well, today's subject, some people might label a conspiracy theory. But we're not going to talk about conspiracy theory. We're going to talk about conspiracy fact. And as Bible believers, you know the word conspiracy appears 10 times in the Bible. And the word conspired appears 19 times. So there are real conspiracies. And so I guess we're going to talk a little bit today about Satan's conspiracy, how Satan is conspiring to take over the world, which is basically his goal and always has been, and how it really is a goal of the devil and people that serve him to try to take over the world and enslave the population to Satan. And this is not a made-up conspiracy theory by people with tinfoil hats.
Hey, no.
This is a real thing. The Bible speaks about this. So this is not something that we as Christians should shy away from. We as Christians should speak about this because the Bible speaks about it. The Bible does speak about a one-world government in which the devil takes over the entire world someday. Now, this is the good part. That's after the rapture. So we as Christians don't have to worry about that. But what is it? And I think we as Christians, we need to understand what it is and look at it biblically, but also look at it historically and look at all the facts. Right, Max?
Oh, yes.
Okay.
Whatever facts that I want to make up.
Yeah, right.
Storable food.
Right. And so that's why people...
The elements of this actually going on right now. And
right.
I mean,
that's why
George Bush is famous. The original George Bush is famous for two things. No new taxes. Yeah. And the other speech that he made was bringing in the New World Order.
1,000 points of light. New World Order.
Yeah.
So this thing, in these last days, there's been this great big economic boom for what they call preppers, doomsday preppers, and how even people that aren't even saved, they're looking at the world going, something's about to explode and bad times are coming. They can feel it in their bones. So they know that, hey, there's something going on where we need to start preparing for the worst. You know, hope for the best, prepare for the worst. So all these things are coming to pass, and it's biblical. It's just what the Bible is speaking about. So without further ado, let's figure out what is the New World Order. Let's explain this. We'll look at history. We'll look at facts. We'll look at the Bible. And I've studied this a lot. I was blessed to have learned this. My dad did a lot of studying on this. The Bible school I went to, they talked about this. I mean, this is stuff that we just study and we know. And we take for granted sometimes that everybody else knows this. But it's fun to go talk to somebody about these things and watch them go and get this kind of a blank look on their face like, what are you talking about? So it becomes clear a lot of times that a lot of people don't know this. And we that are Christians and Bible believers, we kind of think, well, everybody knows this, but they don't. So sometimes we have to kind of realize, hey, We need to start at the beginning and explain it so that everybody gets on the same page, right?
Yeah.
So go ahead.
We have to go straight into like the Alex Jones thing where, everything is conspiracy. Everything is conspiracy. The moon is a conspiracy. Everything. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, okay. You mentioned Alex Jones. He's probably the most known as, they call him a conspiracy theorist, because for all these 20 years or so, he's talked about the New World Order. And they say, oh, that's so silly. Ha, there's no such thing. And yet there is such a thing, and it's coming out now. So he was right. He's not a theorist. He's telling the truth. But he's telling it from a secular. But he's telling it from a sexual. Where'd that come from? I can't say secular.
Secular.
A secular. That's where he's coming from. And we as Christians, we're coming from the biblical side. So we're not going to talk about it and then say, fight the New World Order. The only way to fight the New World Order is to win people to Jesus, because that's one less person that the devil will have to rule over.
I think
that's the true fight.
That's when I made my pretty much conversion, when I'm delving into watching David Icke and watching the Seventh-day Adventist stuff and other Bible people out there. And that's what kind of made my conversion, where I just I have the t-shirt. I have the Alex Jones t-shirt, and I had the storable foods. I gave it all away because I'm like, the Bible says it's going to happen. It doesn't matter how many guns I got or anything. Bible says it's going to happen. There's nothing I can do to stop it.
Right.
The best thing I can do is to save people spiritually.
Get people saved. It's a spiritual fight. It's a spiritual fight. Now, with that said, though, I store up food because who knows? Maybe I'm helping somebody in the tribulation.
Well, you're in Hurricane Valley, man.
Yeah, but what if I'm gone and that guy has 25 years worth of food now, so he doesn't have to take the mark of the beast? So it's not wrong to prepare.
No, honestly, stuff like storable food, it's kind of fun to make fun of. And colloidal silver and all these other things, they're good things to have on hand. All right. Everybody should always have at minimum a week's worth of food, at minimum.
A month or two.
Yeah. Well, for Hurricane Valley.
Yeah.
I
could be snowed in up there for months at a time.
Go into the cornfield and get me some corn. I don't have nothing.
Not when it's snowing out there. So the New World Order. What is the New World Order? It's also called globalism, or the One World Order, and or the Novus Ordo Seclorum, which is, I guess, Latin. The NWO. The New World Order is this. You can call it a conspiracy, and that doesn't downgrade the fact that it's true. It is true that the world's governments are conspiring together to bring in a one world government, which we would call globalism. And the desire of these people that are doing this, and many of them are Satanists and Luciferians, is to have a one world government in which one man rules over the entire world. Now, what does that sound like to you? Antichrist. I mean, when a Christian hears that, they go, oh yeah, that's the Antichrist. That happens in the tribulation. That's what the Bible says. But you say that to your typical guy, that's out on the street, that doesn't know anything, that watches the liberal news media and doesn't know anything about the Bible. He says, oh, that'll never happen. That's ridiculous. What do you mean it'll never happen? It is happening. All the governments are working together to bring in a one world government. That's what they want. That's what the European Union was, all getting together. And they're United Nations, get us all together into one united world.
And then we have they've been trying to do the Amero forever.
Yeah. The Amero is uniting Canada and all of America to a one world Amero dollar. In Europe, they have the euro, so they tried to get the Amero. And then one day they'll unite Africa and they'll call it the Afro. Sorry, that was a bad joke. But they're trying to get all the world together in many different ways. They're trying to get it together in a government. They're trying to get it a financial one world. What would a financial one world thing look like? Why, it would be the mark of the beast. Right hand or forehead, everyone has the same mark and the same way of buying and selling. So it's all coming together, just like the Bible said, the New World Order.
As of today, I saw in Drudge Report that it was a big deal because Trump basically said that they're working with China to standardize a dollar because China doesn't want to use our dollars. And we are tired of them manipulating their own dollar and their own valuation of the dollar.
Oh boy.
So they're talking about, well, we can have a different dollar that we just use.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, here we go.
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
China bought up most of the debt of America. So China wants to take over America. And that's one of the good things about Trump. Say what you will about the man. He sees the threat. And the threat isn't Russia or this or that. China is the threat. China wants to take over America. And they've manipulated their own currency so much to try to make our dollar so weak that we don't need them.
No.
And it looks like Trump is very smart, and he's always seen the problem of them. Now, I don't believe Trump is a saved man. The other day, somebody told me that Trump got saved by Franklin Graham witnessing to him. I don't know. I have no idea. But that raises the question, is Trump a globalist? All of the other presidents we've had, many back, were globalists. They were working to bring in the New World Order. And Trump seems to be against that. So is he? That's what he's portraying himself as, is an anti-globalist, an anti-New World Order. Is he? That's the question. Well, when I watch the guy and I see him, it looks like he's trying to go against it. My some family I have, my family thinks that he is just putting on a show. And that's possible. He could just be that, but it's for him, it's not globalism. For him, it's America first. That's an anti-globalist message. That's no, we want our sovereignty. We want our borders. We want our country. We don't want some guy on the other side of the world ruling us. We want us to rule ourselves. And so for that reason, I like Trump. I think he seems to be good. What he's doing, I see him doing a lot of good. But the main way that Satan rules is by using banking. Satan uses the Rothschilds to set up the banking system, the international banking system. And there's been several times when this guy Trump has gone bankrupt. So I have some family that thinks because of that, the international bankers told him, we'll make a deal with you. You're no longer bankrupt. Here's money if you'll just do our bidding. So I don't know. Maybe he's setting it up somehow to eventually bring in the one world government, or maybe he's going against it. It'll be interesting to see.
He's gone bankrupt several times through his businesses, but not him personally.
Yeah. Right,
and that's like Benjamin Franklin went bankrupt like 14 times. And he was one of the guys who actually put in the bankruptcy laws. That was his business.
To help him.
Yeah. I mean, you start a business, you put money into it, it doesn't work out, you declare bankruptcy. So you don't pay your debts. But I don't think Trump ever personally went bankrupt. So
what you got is man has always been hell-bent on world domination. Man has always wanted to rule the world. And where do we get that from? Where do we get that? I would never want to be the head of the entire world. Can you imagine how many problems you would have? Imagine if you're the ruler of the whole world.
You know how many problems you have just trying to be the head of the household?
Yeah. You know how many problems you have just having a house and living in it?
I'm going to be the head of the block? Head of the block? No.
No thanks.
I'll just go play in the garage.
So people that have this desire to take over and rule over other people and put people down so that they could lift themselves up, many of them are full of pride. And that, of course, would be the first sin. Satan's sin was the sin of pride. And then envy. He was envious of Jesus. So I guess the best place to start would be Isaiah chapter 14, where Satan is. Because a lot of this New World Order thing, it comes from the mind of Satan, because the entire plan is so that Satan can rule the world. And that's what he wants. He is actively working around the world with his minions to bring in the New World Order for a purpose, so that he can take over the world. And that's what the Bible teaches, and he will in the form of the Antichrist. But Isaiah chapter 14, verses 12 through 15, here's Satan when he fell. How art thou fallen from heaven, O Lucifer, son of the morning? How art thou cut down to the ground, which didst weaken the nations? For thou hast said in thine heart, I will ascend into heaven. I will exalt my throne above the stars of God. I will sit also upon the mount of the congregation in the sides of the north. So Satan has a throne. And his thought was, you know what? I'm just going to go put my throne up in heaven and kick God out. He's the first rebel. He's trying to rebel. He's the revolutionary, the first communist. He wants to take over. I will ascend above the heights of the clouds. I will be like the Most High. Verse 15, yet thou shalt be brought down to hell, to the sides of the pit. I love that verse. Amen. Mm-hmm. So Satan doesn't win. If you are a Luciferian, if you join Lucifer, if you want to join the Illuminati, that's another term, the people that are wanting to bring in this one world government, the Illuminati, you're not going to win. You're going to be on the side that goes down to the pit, down to hell. Satan, when he does take over, he only gets 7 years. That's it.
which is very
Right.
interesting about that whole thing of people who are in the Freemasons and are in the Illuminati, or called the Brights, or whatever you want to call them. People who are in these organizations, a lot of people don't know that they're actively worshiping Lucifer, but there are a lot who do. So they believe in Lucifer. They really, really believe in Lucifer.
Yep.
But if you believe in Lucifer, you get Lucifer from the Bible, and God says he's going to take him out. So what's the point?
Amen.
What's the point of following the guy who you know is going to get taken out?
Yeah.
What's the point?
Can you say
don't
loser,
understand.
or how's the L
Exactly.
shape? Loser, you know, you're a loser if you follow the Lucy guy, because he's a loser. And it's really sad that people think that he's the one that's the side of power and money and riches. And he is, because he's the God of this world, the Bible says, the little g. But it's only for a temporal. I mean, it's however long you live, and if the rapture takes place, it's 7 more years, and that's it. But eternity is how long you'll spend in hell for serving him.
Mhm.
So it's better to come to Jesus and have all eternity with Jesus to enjoy life and everything. So it's really sad that a lot of people will serve Lucifer, but they do. And we'll look at those in a little bit later. The Masons, the Illuminati, the Skull and Bones, the Bilderbergers, all these different groups that, whether they know it or not, they are actively working for Satan to help bring in his kingdom. Okay, someone wrote Lucifer. That's right. He's a loser. So all the way through the Bible, we find this theme over and over. Is someone taking over the world? What was it? Babylon, and then the Medo-Persians, and then the Romans. Well, the Greeks first, the Greeks, and then the Romans, and they take over the world. And that's always been in the heart of man, to want to take over the world. And when they do, guess who's usually behind, or I guess you could say inside of the ruler? The devil. The devil's always behind it. And these people that rule, they're scum. They're the worst of the worst. That's what's so sad. You very seldom find a righteous ruler. It's usually a man full of pride that just wants to take over in order to enslave people and put others down and treat them bad. So those that want to take over the world, you know, like Pinky in the Brain, Pinky in the Brain, try to take over the world, Pinky. It's usually because they're evil. Good people don't want to abuse other people and take away their rights. Good people respect other people and want them to have rights. And that's why America was such an amazing nation, because it was all about the rights of the individual. And it was all about the rights of the state. And now we're losing those rights. It's all about the state taking over, which is the federal, which will eventually be the global government taking over. But in the Bible, we have one of the first times when Satan sees his New World Order coming to fruition in the book of Genesis, chapter 10. And we have a guy named Nimrod. And Genesis chapter 10 is the first big dude, evil dude, to take over the world. Genesis chapter 10.
And the
verse,
first insult on the schoolyard.
What's that?
Nimrod? Nimrod.
Yeah. Isn't it funny how in the Bible there's people and their names are remembered for who they were and what they were, and today we don't use those names? You never hear a person name their son Nimrod.
Oh, no.
You never see a man or a woman name their daughter Jezebel.
No.
I mean, this is the scum of the earth people, and they were rulers who tried to take over and steal and cheat and lie as they tried to rule. Nobody wants a child like that. I think that's funny. And so we say Nimrod to somebody who we say is a fool or a moron. You Nimrod.
Yep.
That's funny. So Genesis 10:6 through 12, and the sons of Ham, Cush and Mizraim, and Put and Canaan. And the sons of Cush, Sheba and Havilah, and it goes on the names of the son. And then in verse 8 it says, and Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a mighty one in the earth. He was the mighty hunter before the Lord. Wherefore it is said, even as Nimrod, the mighty hunter before the Lord. And the beginning of his kingdom was Babel, and Erech, and Akkad, and Calneh in the land of Shinar. And out of that land went forth Asher, and builded Nineveh, the city of Rehoboth, and on and on. Verse 12 talks about Nineveh and Calah, the same as a great city. All right, so Nimrod set up Babel. That's where Babylon eventually comes from. So we did a couple of weeks ago the Mystery Babylon. And what's interesting is how this ties back to that, and how we talked about Mystery Babylon today. It's all about that building of that kingdom of Satan. And it all ties back to this point, which is kind of interesting. So that might spark you to go back and watch that one again as well. But if you know your history, what happened? This guy named Nimrod kind of took over the whole area, and he had a wife named Semiramis, and then they had a child named Tammuz. And all of the idol worship in the world was started in Babylon. And so you have idol worship. And what is idol worship? Most of the time, it's a woman with a baby. And that's Semiramis and Tammuz. And they all throughout the world, the idol worship was the worship of a woman and her child, which today you see in Catholic churches, they say it's Mary and Jesus. But it's images. God says not to build images. Don't make idols, things like that. So the first attempt at a new world order, or a new world government, or one world order, was Genesis chapter 11, verses 1 through 9. And this is the Tower of Babel. I get so frustrated sometimes when people say Babel. No, it's the Tower of Babel. What is a person doing when they're just talking and talking? We say, quit babbling on. You know, they're babbling. So it's the Tower of Babel, not Babel. I don't know why people say that, but they do. But anyway, and we call it Babylon, not Babylon or something like that. So this is Babylon. This is the Tower of Babylon. Look what happens here. Genesis chapter 11, verse 1 through 9. And the whole earth was of one language and of one speech. Okay. And it came to pass as they journeyed from the east, they found a plain in the land of Shinar, and they dwelt there. Now Shinar, well, that's where Nimrod set up Babylon. And they dwelt there. And they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime they had for mortar. And they said, let us go. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach into what? Heaven. That almost sounds like Lucifer. He wanted to get up into heaven to kick God out. So as I read this passage, I don't see just people going, hey, let's go do this. I see the devil behind it, trying to get them to do this. He's planning in their mind this one world idea of a one world government, because he knows when he gets that, then he can come take it over. And so they say, let's build us a top, may reach into heaven. Let us make a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And the Lord came down to see the city and the tower which the children of men builded. And the Lord said, behold, the people is one, and they have all one language, and this they begin to do, and now nothing will be restrained from them which they have imagined to do. Go to, let us go down, and there confound their language, that they may not understand one another's speech. So the Lord scattered them abroad from thence upon the face of all the earth, and they left off to build the city. Therefore the name of it is called Babel. Why? Because they sounded like they were babbling. Because the Lord did there confound the language of all the earth, and from thence did the Lord scatter them abroad upon the face of all the earth. So what does man try to do? When man gets together, what do? They kick God out. So it almost sounds like God doesn't want man to get together. They live better when they're out kind of in the country on their own, apart from everyone. When they all start getting together, that's when the messes start. You go to any big city like New York or Paris or something.
Detroit.
There's crime everywhere. The Bible says, woe unto them that build house unto house. It's not a good thing to be able to see your neighbors. Fence posts make good neighbors. There's enough land in the world to where everybody alive today could have 100 acres, probably 1,000 acres. Someone said you could take the entire population of 7 or 8 billion people and put them within the city limits of Jacksonville, Florida. And they're all standing up next to each other, and the whole world would fit within the city limits. That's a really big city.
Yeah,
so there's so there's plenty of room in the world for people. Why is it they seem to always want to live right next to each other, right on top of each other? Literally, like shut up there, you know.
It's urban sprawl, man. It's urban sprawl.
It's not a good thing to get together. It's a good thing to separate and get apart if you can. Now, unfortunately, some people can't. You know, you live where you live or whatever. But that's the first attempt at the one world government. And what did God show us he thought of it? Ain't going to happen. No. So we see that in the beginning of the Bible. We see that's what the devil wanted then. Now, what about now? Let's go to 2 Thessalonians. And there's some scriptures. I'm just going to give you a couple of scriptures on this. And then we'll talk about some other things. But 2 Thessalonians, the Bible tells us that the Antichrist, or well, actually Lucifer himself, is going to keep doing this. And all throughout history, he's done it. And so all these people that take over different countries and different rulers, I believe they were literally possessed by Satan. I believe they literally had Satan inside them. The Caesars of Rome, Alexander the Great, different rulers. I believe they literally had Satan inside of them. And I could prove that, but I don't have time to show you that in the scriptures. But there's times when God goes and talks to, like, the king of Cyrus. And he's talking to the king of Cyrus, and he said, you were in the Garden of Eden. No, he wasn't. The king of Cyrus wasn't alive in the Garden of Eden. Who is he talking to? He's talking to Satan inside the king of Cyrus, which is kind of interesting. Is that Ezekiel 28, I believe? So here we have 2 Thessalonians chapter 2 and verse 3. Let no man deceive you by any means, for that day shall not come except there be a falling away first, and that man of sin be revealed, the son of perdition, who opposeth and exalteth himself above all that is called God or that is worshipped, so that he as God sitteth in the temple of God, showing himself that he is God. Remember you not that when I was with you, I told you these things? So there's going to be a time in history, the Bible says, this is a prophecy, in which the Antichrist, which will be Satan incarnate. Now, he starts his first 3.5 years as a man called the Beast. I believe he's assassinated according to Revelation. And in the middle of that 3.5 years, or the 7 years, at the end of that 3.5 years, that's when Satan literally enters into him. So that's why he's given two names here: the man of sin, the first 3.5 years, and then the son of perdition, which was Lucifer. Who was that guy in Jesus' ministry? Judas. Judas was called the son of perdition. And the Bible says about Judas, and the devil entered into him. So we have all these things over there in Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, and we're seeing it here. So when the devil comes into that Antichrist figure, his goal is to sit on a throne and tell the whole world, I am God. Just what he wanted at the beginning in Isaiah chapter 14. And now look what it says will happen with him. Let's skip down to verse 10. And with all deceivableness of unrighteousness in them that perish, because they receive not the love of the truth, that they might be saved. And for this cause God shall send them strong delusion, that they all should believe a lie, and that they all might be damned who believe not the truth, but had pleasure in unrighteousness. So this Satan, this Antichrist comes and he deceives people to get the world to come after him. And he comes with, verse 9, power and signs and lying wonders. And in the whole world at that time will then be under the New World Order, a one world global government. And they'll say, man, yeah, he's our God. Look at him. Look at all the miracles that he can do. Isn't he great? No, he's the devil incarnate. And you're worshiping him like he's God. And he's not.
No, I'll add that 2 Thessalonians 2, we're talking about the great falling away. Every denomination out there uses this as some sort of a proof text where if you don't believe like me, you must be falling away. And it's like, no, that's not what they're talking about. Talking about falling away from God in general, not because I decide I don't like how the Lutherans are doing their business, so I'm going to go off and go be a Methodist. That's not what they're talking about falling away. They're talking about falling away in general. And, you know, for a long time, people have been brought up basically the religion of atheism and evolutionism is basically, that's what I see as the falling away. If you believe in Christ, even if you have not the best book or not the best doctrine, if you still believe in Christ, that's pretty much the important thing. The falling away is that maybe you're brought up in that, and then, oh, well, maybe we came from monkeys and there is no God, that sort of thing.
Yeah. Right. And we clearly see that in the world. In the 1800s, missionaries had gone around the world. In the world, even though they might not have all been saved, it was very moral because so many people adopted the teachings of the Bible. If they weren't saved, at least they believed there was a God. And there were many places in the world where they were just moral, clean, nice people.
Isn't it? And
that was wonderful.
Isn't
and now
that
it's not
fun?
Like that?
How you can go out into the jungles, okay, South America. You can go out into all these remote tribes and the pygmies and even Native Americans here, and you can go out there and they always believed in God. Yeah. Naturally, innately believed in God. And it wasn't until what?
Darwin.
Yeah. Well, the 1800
yeah.
area where it's like people come in with their big brain on and they go, nope, everything was created by nothing and there is no God. Huh? Naturally, nobody would draw that conclusion.
No,
nobody has ever drawn that conclusion.
You can't go out and look at the night sky and see the stars and think, wow, what a great accident. You think, wow, there must be a creator that made this, because this is spectacular.
Yep.
And see how it does its order and everything. It's just incredible. So you had in the 1800s Queen Victoria. And even today, we talk about the Victorian morals of people. People had what they called Victorian morals, which were, if a woman shows her ankle, she's showing her nakedness, you know? And
Yeah.
you go to modern colleges, they make fun. Oh, the Victorian people. Well, yeah, but at least they had morals. I mean, they weren't a bunch of floozies sleeping around. They believed in not sleeping around, not doing bad things, being clean. If a man were to swear in public, he'd blush, because he wouldn't do that in public. He felt bad in front of children, you know, to do. So there were all these morals that people had. And we see in the 1960s, well, actually before that, we see the First World War, men going off as soldiers and coming back. We see the Second World War, men going off as soldiers and come back. Usually men go off as soldiers, they go look for prostitutes, and they do bad stuff when they're away from home. And then in the 1960s, what did you have? Oh, we got to rebel against morals. Man, we got to have free love. Well, we got to go out and get drunk and fornicate in the mud at Woodstock and take drugs and act stupid and do dumb things and free ourselves from the morals of our fathers. No, we don't. Our fathers did good. We don't need to be free from that. So we see that rebellion coming and being bred in the 60s, I think, more than anything. People that I've known that were born before the 60s, they said the 1950s were the best time in the history of the world to live. My dad told a story one time that my grandpa took him and his brother and his sister and my grandmother. They went on a 3-month vacation, and they went all over out west. They saw the Grand Canyon. My grandpa took $300 out of the bank. They were gone for several months, and they came back. He put $200 back in the bank. A 3-month vacation was $100. A hotel room was like $100. I mean, what? And everything was silver money. I mean, can you imagine how great it would have been to live in the 1950s? And now we live in Crapsville.
Nice car.
Everything's fake. Yeah.
Nice car was $500.
Oh yeah. Everything was so much cleaner and nicer and everything else. So that's the change we've seen in our lifetime. A great change. I personally have seen a change. I'm only 44 years old, but I remember as a kid, you go to the store, you don't lock your doors in your car. You'd leave the house door unlocked. You don't lock the doors. Now, no, we lock the door every night. Honey, is the door locked? I mean, now you really see a great change in the world just in my lifetime as how evil things have become. And what is that? That's the prophecy in the Bible. In the last days, perilous times shall come. And that's what we're seeing. So it all ties into the Bible. Now, Revelation 12:9. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan. Who is it speaking of? Lucifer, which deceiveth the whole world. And he was cast into the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. So what is the goal of Satan? To deceive the world. He wants to take over the world in order to deceive the world. And then chapter 13, and I'll read the whole chapter here. I only have one more verse after this. But Revelation chapter 13, here we hear about the one world order of the Antichrist and Satan. Revelation 13:1, I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was likened to a leopard, and his feet were as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion. And the dragon gave him his power and his seat and great authority. Well, the dragon would be Satan. So Satan allowed this man to take over the world and have power. Verse 3, and I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon, which gave power to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him? And then verse 3 says, and there was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given unto him to continue 42 months. So if the tribulation period after the rapture is 7 years, then he continues 3.5 years. 42 months is 3.5 years. So I see the beast, the Antichrist, the man, 3.5 years, and then the devil inside of him for the last 3.5 years. And so he was given verse 6, I skipped. And he opened his mouth and blasphemed against God, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle and them that dwell in heaven. Verse 7, it was given unto him to make war with the saints and overcome them. And power was given him over, now watch this, all kindreds, all tongues, and nations. So the devil gets the whole world. This is your new world order. He does get the entire world. Every nation, every tongue, all kindreds. He is the one ruler over the one world. government. And it says, and all that dwell upon the earth shall worship him. So that's a global one earth or one world system.
And right now we have that through the UN, don't you think? Or
Yep, the United Nations is that. And we'll talk a little bit more about the United Nations here in a minute. But I firmly believe that the United Nations will be the one that gives power to the Antichrist, because it's already nations around the world uniting, wanting globalism, wanting a one world government. And so it continues here, and it says, verse 10, he that leadeth into captivity shall go into captivity. He that killeth with the sword must be killed with the sword. Here's the patience and the faith of the saints. Now, I believe these are the tribulation saints. And I beheld another beast coming out of the earth, and he had horns like a lamb, and he spake as a dragon, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and causeth the earth and them that dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. And he doeth great wonders, so that he maketh fire come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men, and deceiveth them that dwell on the earth by the means of those miracles which he had power to do in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell on the earth that they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now, this is interesting because this goes all the way back to Nebuchadnezzar. And remember when Nebuchadnezzar built this huge tower, and the Bible says it was 60 feet high by 6 by 6. Sounds like 666. And he told everyone, you've got to worship this. It was a one world dictator. And so that's what the devil's going to be, is a one world dictator. And they're going to have to make an image. And verse 15 says, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many as will not worship the image of the beast should be killed. Now, I don't know what this is, but you look at AI, artificial intelligence, there's a big push on that today. And there's this thing called Sophia, which they built a body for, and it's a computer. And so I think of things like that sometimes. Wow, downloading your mind into some computer thing or something. I don't know, but it's really weird, whatever it is. And what's the main goal of the Antichrist or of Satan, of Lucifer? 16, 17, and 18. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that had the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that hath understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. So the Bible gives us all of this information. It says, yes, there will be a new world, one world order, a global government in which the Antichrist will take over. And it tells us only for 7 years. And what's he going to do? He's going to make us, or not us, because I won't be there, but he's going to make those that are in the world cattle. He's going to treat them like they're cattle, and like branding the cattle, like, they're mine. So they will literally be enslaved to this guy, whoever he is. Isn't that awful?
We'll see the run up to it, though.
We're already seeing the run up to it, though.
Oh, yeah.
We have in our day the UN, and we're seeing all this push toward globalism worldwide. Yeah, we're already seeing that coming together.
And then we got these things called the Georgia Guidestones that says they only want 500 million people on the planet.
Oh yeah, if you know what that is, it's in Alberta, Georgia, and some guy named R.C. Christian built this, and it tests basically the 10 Commandments of the New World Order. I've been there twice, and I've seen it, and I read it, and I got so mad. How do I say this nicely? Because nobody's around. I relieved myself, let's put it that way, as my sign of protest against that. I think it's the most disgusting thing, because it says maintain the population of the world under 500 million people. So basically, what the New World Order wants is 90%, or is it 95% of the population of the world dead?
Yep.
So either enslaved to Satan or dead. You either obey the devil or die. Now, does that sound like a benevolent ruler, or does that sound like an evil dictator?
Eat your GMO foods.
Yeah. And we're seeing how the devil delights in killing people. He's doing chemtrails, which are really, if you don't know about that,
take your vaccines. And I want to talk about chemtrails.
Yeah.
I want to talk about chemtrails.
Go ahead.
Nobody freaking notices these things, okay? And they're getting better with the technology. But I grew up on a hobby farm in the middle of nowhere with cornfields surrounding me. And I would see these jets come up like they're rocket ships with these big, huge plumes of smokes when I was like 12 years old, just a little kid. And I'm like, that isn't normal. that is not normal at all for a jet to be
Right.
doing that. Because I mean, it's not like a high traffic jet area. I've seen jets go through, but I've never seen something go.
Yep.
And I'm like, this is crazy. This is the early 90s. And I find out now, of course, well, through Alex Jones, that basically they have been spraying people since the early 90s for various different reasons. And as long as they do it around a place where there's a college, and as long as they do it on their own people, it doesn't break any treaties. They can't spray other countries. We can spray ourselves. We can't spray other countries. So this is going on, and it's been going on for 25 years, at least 25 years.
Yeah, and we could go into what they're for, but there's several theories on that, and so I don't want to get into chemtrails too much. That should be like its own,
well, people today don't even think that they're so used to it that they think it's normal.
Right, but I think it ties into 5G. If you look at 5G, what that's going to be, that's going to do a lot of damage. Tesla technology, things like that. Tesla wanted free energy, which is great, but it goes by radio waves, and all those waves passing through your body does damage to your body. You use a cell phone a lot. So there's so much that's being destroyed in this world. Chemtrails, flu vaccines. I've got a book in there called The Poisoned Needle, written in 1970s. And it shows just how wicked flu vaccines are. Vaccines are full of things that can damage you. And almost every single case of autism comes from it didn't happen until after they got some sort of vaccine, and then the child became autistic. So you've got that, the processed food, the GMO that you mentioned. I mean, there's just so many ways to Sunday that they're poisoning us, and the devil's delighting. He wants us dead, and we're living in a world full of evil and wickedness. And so the devil's plan is kill as many people as possible, and those that don't die, rule over them and make them his slave. Amen?
Sounds like a wonderful planet.
Yeah, doesn't it? That's why I can't wait for the millennial kingdom, because things will be way better then. So here's the plan of the devil. He's going to, through political means, take over the entire world. He's going to use the banking system. He's going to use the governments. He's going to use education. And he's going to use the medical system. And he's going to use religion. And all of these different systems, he's using them. And they're all perverted, they're all evil, they're all wicked, and they all teach the coming one world. It's all about a world government. Now, once he gets power and he gets all the nations in the world to follow him, I love this verse, Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8. Look at what God says he's going to do. Because, some people say, well, this isn't fair. The devil gets it. Why would God let the devil have the world? Well, there's a reason. See, God is smarter than the devil. So there is a reason that God allows the devil to come and take over the entire world. When the devil takes over the entire world, if you read the book of Revelation, there's one enemy that he cannot conquer, and that will be the Jews. And so he's going to get all of his armies together to go against the Jews. And the Jews will flee, it says, and if you read your Bible, it looks like they're going to flee to a place called Sela Petra, which is a city, a cave city. It looks like they'll be able to hide there. And as the devil comes there to get them, Jesus is going to come at the Battle of Armageddon and destroy the Antichrist, destroy Lucifer, destroy all of the enemies at the Battle of Armageddon. So Zephaniah chapter 3 and verse 8 says this, Therefore wait ye upon me, saith the Lord, until the day that I rise up to the prey, P-R-E-Y. For my determination is to gather the nations, that I may assemble the kingdoms to pour upon them mine indignation. Even all my fierce anger, for all the earth shall be devoured with the fire of my jealousy. So God is smarter than the devil. He's letting the devil do this so that he can get the devil and all of his enemies in one place, and then all he has to do is just go, and they're all dead. So what a wonderful, amazing, great God who is so powerful that even though we look at this as, well, that's not fair. Why would God let an evil entity take over the world? It's all for a purpose. So God can get them all in one place at one time to destroy them all. And that one place and that one time is what the Bible calls the Battle of Armageddon. So that will take place at the end of the tribulation. Yeah.
I have a question on that. Do you think that everybody even if you're not part of Satan's army, if you're not raptured out, do you think that everybody is going to get killed?
Okay, it says in Matthew that when Jesus, after the Battle of Armageddon, sits on his throne, it says there's the sheep nations and the goat nations. So somehow there are some nations that didn't completely follow him. And the goat nations, the ones that did, will be put into hell, and then the other sheep nations will get into the millennial kingdom. So that's one of those things that I'm going to ask God about, because there must still be some nations that I guess they...
Unsaved people. I'm talking about unsaved people specifically. I know sheep nations, goat nations, but...
So will there be any unsaved people that make it into the millennial kingdom? If there are, there'll be few and far between, but somehow they probably will, because if they endure to the end. So like
that's
some guy in a jungle in the Amazon that never took the mark of the beast, that they never found.
That's kind of the way that
possibly,
I see it.
Things like that.
I wish Brett was here, because he believes that the only people left on the earth are all saved. And I'm like, well, how does everything go to crap after 1,000 years when you got Jesus sitting there in the kingdom? I mean, there's got to be some lost people going.
So with that, on a happy note, the Battle of Armageddon and Jesus destroying the Antichrist, I want to read Revelation 19:11 through 21, because this is Jesus coming back in his glory, defeating the Antichrist. This is the end of the United Nations. This is the end of the New World Order. Revelation 19:11 through 21. And I saw heaven open, and behold, a white horse, and he that sat upon him was called Faithful and True, and in righteousness he doth judge and make war. His eyes were as a flame of fire, and on his head were many crowns, and he had a name written that no man knew but he himself. And he was clothed with a vesture dipped in blood, and his name is called the Word of God. And the armies which were in heaven followed him upon white horses, clothed in fine linen, white and clean. And out of his mouth goeth a sharp sword, that with it he should smite the nations. There's the end of the nations. You see, these nations joined together into the one world government, one world order, new world order. And Jesus will smite them all. He shall rule them with a rod of iron, and he treadeth the winepress of the fierceness and wrath of Almighty God. He hath on his vesture and on his thigh a name written, King of Kings and Lord of Lords. And I saw an angel standing in the sun, and he cried with a loud voice, saying to all the fowls that fly in the midst of heaven, Come and gather yourselves together unto the supper of the great God, that ye may eat the flesh of kings, and the flesh of captains, and the flesh of mighty men, and the flesh of horses, and them that sat on them, and the flesh of all men, both free and bond, both small and great. And I saw the beast and the kings of the earth and their armies gathered together to make war against him that sat on the horse and against his army. And the beast was taken, and with him the false prophet that wrought miracles before him, with which he deceived them, and had received the mark of the beast, and them that worshipped his image. Both these were cast alive into the lake of fire, burning with brimstone. And the remnant were slain with the sword of him that sat upon the horse, which sword proceeded out of his mouth. All the fowls were filled with their flesh. And I always get goosebumps, because that's the end of the New World Order. That's Satan's ultimate end. Now, of course, he gets out after the 1,000 years, but for a very, very, very short time, way shorter. And then he's put into the lake of fire. So
I think they need to put that on their poster, the recruitment poster.
Yeah,
or the Illuminati.
Recruitment point. Join us so that the birds can eat you. That'd be great.
Everybody likes fire when you're cold.
That should be on their recruiting poster. So, with all that stated, is there really a conspiracy to bring about a one world government, a new world order? Yes, there is. And it's everywhere you look. You cannot miss it if your eyes are open. Here we have a dollar bill. Right, on the back of the dollar bill, some people have seen this, some people haven't. Look at that. You have this odd-looking pyramid thing. Now, didn't the Egyptians worship pyramids? I mean, that's not Christian thing. And in Latin it says Annuit Coeptis Novus Ordo Seclorum. I hope you can read that. That literally says in Latin, announcing the birth of the new world order. Novus, new, ordo, order, seclorum, secular, world. The new world order, announcing the birth of the new world order. That was put on our money in 1933 when they took away all our gold and silver. They told us in 1933 you can't have gold anymore. So we went off the gold standard, and then they started putting that on the money.
Not only
and
that,
what is that? That's Sauron. That's the all-seeing eye. That's the pyramid. That's Satan. Now go ahead, and then I'll say what I was going to say. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say not only that, but you were ordered to turn in.
You were ordered to turn in 1933. Yeah, but Satan, he says, "I will ascend to the sides of the north." You know, the only shape that has sides on both sides as you go north would be a pyramid. The side, I will ascend to the sides of the north. And what is Satan trying to say? I want to be the all-knowing. I want to be the all-seeing. I want to be the one. I want to be God, like we read in Isaiah 14. So this is the devil's symbol. He wants to be the one God. And he puts on the dollar bill, hey, I'm getting my one world order. So it's right there in your face, and you can't help but see it. And it's all over. And if you know what to look for, you can find it. You can see that there is globalist one world order, and it is Luciferian. It's tied in with witchcraft. It's tied in with Satanism. It's tied in with Luciferianism. And that's what I wanted to focus in on at the end of this. It's talking about the groups, the very different groups that Satan uses. We talk about the Illuminati. I don't know if you've ever heard of the Illuminati. There's a book called Bloodlines of the Illuminati by Fritz Springmeier. Fritz Springmeier, he wrote this book. It's very amazing. And he goes through it. He shows you all these big name, high up people in the world, rich as they can be. They're all part of this big club of people that have come together, that are globalists, that are working together. Now, I don't know how much of this is true and how much of his book isn't. But he goes through and he talks about how these high ups in the world, these elite, there's no other way to call them, but global elite, people that are working together for globalism, how they're into witchcraft, how they're into human sacrifice, how they love to kill people. He says here in his book, he says, every 28 years, the hierarchy of the Illuminati holds a year-long event called the Feast of the Beast. At this feast, in key locations across the world, Satan himself delivers detailed instructions on how to bring in the New World Order. Now, is that true? I don't know. But I do know one thing. These people that are in these positions of power that are running the world, your George Soroses, your Rothschilds people, your Rockefeller people, they are all behind this and putting their money into trying to bring about a one world government. And they're all Luciferians. They're all Satanists. And they all work in a way, it's like a pyramid. The guy at the top knows what he's doing, and all these people below him, they don't know what he knows. So he's using all these people, and so it's like a pyramid. It is like a pyramid, like on the dollar bill. And so you see all this, and there's so much that I could get into, and this is a pretty cool book. But if you want to learn more about the Illuminati and where it all comes from, this is one of the most amazing books right here. What Hath God Wrought by Grady, William Grady. I met this guy. I've heard him preach several times. And in this book, it's true, brother. Amen. In this book, he talks about who the Illuminati are. And he wrote this book about the history of America from a Bible standpoint and how God used America. And he talks about who the Illuminati are. The Illuminati were started, as you said earlier, in 1776 by Adam Weishaupt. And he was a German who was a former Jesuit who said, let's try to bring in a one world government. And he started the Illuminati.
Jesuits did it.
Yeah. And the Jesuits are behind a lot of this, and the Vatican and everything.
Oh, no.
Mystery Babylon, it all ties in. Well, he wrote this other book, Brother Grady, William Grady, called How Satan Turned America Against God. The first book was how God used America for good. This book is how the devil was behind the scenes working to try to get America and the world to fall into his plan. And he shows here a picture of this guy named Adam Weishaupt. So there's Adam Weishaupt. Adam Weishaupt in 1700s started what's called the Illuminati. And it's enlightened ones. All right. It's those that think only we know the truth. Only we are the enlightened ones. Now, why would a guy say he's enlightened? Well, the Bible says that Satan appears as an angel of light. So they want light. They want the angel's light. They want the devil's light. They want to get, understanding from Satan rather than the Bible. And so this guy, he started the Illuminati. I'm not going to go into this, how May 1st, 1776, he started the Illuminati.
Mayday, we're going down.
But he wrote letters, this Weishaupt guy. And it was interesting that he wrote a letter to some other Illuminati members. And this letter was on this guy, and this guy got struck by lightning. And they found this guy struck by lightning. And he had this letter from Adam Weishaupt. And they read the letter, and they said, these guys are a secret cabal of people that are meeting together to try to take over and topple governments and try to take over the world. And when that was found, there became this anti-Illuminati movement. A lot of people don't know this, but George Washington was an anti-Illuminati person. I've read things about him. I believe he was a Christian. I know he was a Mason for a couple years, but he got out of that and began to write against the Masons. In the early 1800s in America, there was an anti-Mason movement. And so there was an anti-Illuminati and an anti-Mason movement in America because they saw what this was. So as you begin to study these things, you begin to look at this and you go, wow. Now people say, well, that's just conspiracy. No, it's history. There is history. And if you read history, you'll see it. You'll see it, that this is historically what it's like. So Satan runs the world. He's called the God of this world. And he has people that work under him. Now, how do you get power if you want Satan? Well, Satan demands blood sacrifice. So there are satanic, evil people that want to be witches. And through witchcraft, they worship Lucifer to try to take over the world. That Fritz Springmeier, the guy, has in his book.
That's mimicking God too, as well, with that.
Yeah, everything Satan does, he tries to imitate God because he's secretly jealous and wants to be God. So he wants to take over. But Fritz Springmeier, in his book, he said that there's some sort of mansion in France, and they do, the high ups do these things, these sacrifices, and then they write the history of the Illuminati in the blood of the sacrifices. Now you could say, well, I don't know if that's true or not. I don't know if that's true or not. But knowing the devil and knowing these people, how evil they are, it sounds very plausible because these people literally sell their souls to Satan. And that gets us into a different topic. But if you're a high up in this world, you didn't get there on your own usually. Those people that are high ups in this world have to sell their souls to Satan usually because he is the God of this world, little g. And so if you want to get ahead in this world, you have to go to him and ask him for power. And he says, well, if you'll sell me your soul. And there's story after story after story of people saying that they met a black cat or they met Satan. And he said, if you'll sell me your soul and sign this paper. Many of your people in rock and roll music, I've heard their testimonies. And they said, yeah, that's when I sold my soul to Satan. People
they actually
like
go out on
Lady Gaga.
And they say it.
Yeah.
That's
People
unbelievable.
Like,
Bob Dylan.
Bob Dylan, Lady Gaga. Who's that other girl that's got black hair that sings?
Oh, yeah, I know you're talking about. Katy Perry.
Yeah, and she was supposedly a pastor's daughter, but she said, no, I'm selling my soul to Satan. So Satan is real, Satan exists, and he wants to give you power if you will work for him. And that's how it works. So we have in this world different groups that have been set up by the devil, and people get into these groups and begin to work for Satan, whether they know it or not. One of the most biggest groups in America and in the world is the Masons. Now, what's funny is you go to this little thing right here, and you draw a triangle this way, and you draw a triangle this way, and it points to all these letters, and it spells out Mason, or Masons, M-A-S-O-N. I mean, you can't make that up. You can look that stuff up online. That's odd. I mean, that could be just coincidence. Really weird.
It isn't coincidence when you look at all the other things that they build. They all do it exactly very perfectly. Like
and
that.
What are Masons about? A Mason is someone that builds something. What are they trying to build? The one world order, the one world government, the new world order. They want to build Satan's kingdom. And so they're actively working together and doing that. Now, in the Masons, there was a man who was named Albert Pike. Albert Pike lived in the 1800s. He was actually a Southern general. He was a general in the South. And when the war was over, he was the head of a Masonic lodge in the North. As soon as the lodge was over, and he had lots of money. How did that happen? And he built the Masonic Lodge in Washington, D.C. I don't know which book I have it in, but Washington, D.C., if you look at it, is an upside-down star. I'll have to find it. But you look at a map of Washington, D.C., you see the Masonic symbol in the map itself. You see an upside-down star. And
the owl, man. You can't forget the owl.
And the owl. And Satanists, they worship upside-down stars. Now, I don't have time to get into that, but why? Well, there's 4 cherubims in heaven. And the Bible says that Satan was the anointed cherub that covered it. So there would have been 5 around the throne of Jesus. And so you draw a line like that, well, it's a star. And what does Satan do? He fell. So you invert the star. It's a star pointed down. So Satanists, Luciferians, They all worship the pointed down star.
Go to the Mormon temple in Salt Lake City too, and see
There's
what
an
you
upside
have to
down
walk through in the door.
Yeah. And so this Albert Pike guy, he was very evil. He was very wicked and very ungodly. And he wrote a lot of letters and other things in which he predicted the three world wars coming. And he predicted them to a T. World War I, just like he said. World War II, just like he said. He said the third war will have something to do with the Muslims fighting terror. And they're trying to take over the world, which makes sense because the Antichrist says if you don't follow his agenda, what happens? Your head gets cut off. Well, the only people out there with swords chopping off heads are the Muslims. So you've got the Masons. Now, people say, well, I'm a Mason and I don't believe in that stuff. Well, they go to different degrees. When you get to the 30th, 31st, 32nd, 33rd degree, that's when they tell you, we worship the light bearer, and his name is Lucifer. So if you're a Mason and you're only 1st, 2nd, 3rd, 4th, 5th degree, you don't know this. And I've had people tell me, you're the biggest liar and Breaker. I'm a Mason and I don't believe in Lucifer.
I think unless you're a big shot, you never really get out of 3rd degree Masonry.
Yeah, very
from
few
what I
people
understand.
do. Very few people do. So there are people out there that are Masons that don't realize they're worshiping Lucifer. But if you are a Mason and you're listening to this, get out now. It is the worship of Lucifer. And if you will read the books, I've got Albert Pike's book in there. Albert Pike's book is on my bookshelf. And I can take you to the page where he says, Masonry is the oldest religion. It is the worship of Lucifer. Albert Pike said that. He says, we that are Masons, we worship Lucifer. What is the Illuminati? Well, the Illuminati worships Lucifer. You have different societies called Skull and Bones Society. Maybe you've heard of them, 322. Many of the past presidents have been Skull and Bones. Skull and Bones Society is a satanic Bavarian Illuminati type society. And to become a member of the Skull and Bones, you have to come in, and it all imitates Christ. Satan always imitates what God does. You come inside, they put you in a coffin. I think they do that in Masonry too. But to become a member of the Skull and Bones Society, you have to spend the night in a coffin while you, how do you say this nicely, pleasure yourself. And then you come out of the coffin and they say, now you're born again. No, you're not. But in the society, you become born into the society, into the group. And the group is all set up to get into politics and get into positions of authority in which you can help to bring in a one world government, a one world order. There's one called the Jason Society. There's one called the Bilderbergers. Maybe you've heard of the Bilderbergers. For many years, they say there's no such thing as a Bilderberger. You conspiracy theorists, that's crazy. Last several years, they came out in the news. Well, the Bilderberger group is meeting again. After all these 30 years or however long they've existed, saying, oh, they don't really exist. Now they're like, yeah, they're meeting now. It's like, yeah, it's not a conspiracy. It's true. Satan is using these secret societies. This is a good book called Pawns in the Game by this guy, William Guy Carr. This tells you all about how, we are just pawns in the game in the eyes of the elite. We're just a bunch of cattle that they're trying to use to bring in their one world government. You have the Rhodes Scholars. You have, probably you've seen this before, the Bohemian Grove. You remember the Bohemian Grove? Alex Jones snuck into the Bohemian Grove. The Bohemian Grove is a place in California where there's these huge redwoods. Every year, these high up elite political people meet together for a sacrifice. Now, supposedly it's a mock sacrifice, but they have a gigantic altar out there in the shape of an owl, and they call it Moloch. And they do what they call the cremation of care service, in which they have a mock human sacrifice. Now, many of the past presidents were picked at the Bohemian Grove. Who was the guy that walked away? He resigned. Nixon. Nixon went to the Bohemian Grove. He said, I'll never go back there. These are I quote his words, and I cleaned it up a little bit. He said, a bunch of GD faggots. That's what Nixon said about the Bohemian Grove when they asked him. He said, bunch of GD faggots. I'm never going back there. And they all get together, and they have sexual orgies. They do evil things. Now, you say, well, that's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. Have you ever read the Bible? In the Old Testament, in Israel, the bad people came and they worshipped in groves. And the homosexuals worshipped in groves. And you read all throughout the Old Testament, whenever the good people get out of power and the bad people come in, they're called the, what were they called? Well, they're the Sodomites, they're the homosexuals, but there was the Baalites, the Baalite priests, those that worship Baal. Okay, Baal is Lucifer or Satan. They would worship in groves. I mean, people are doing now the same thing that the elite did 2,000-3,000 years ago, like the Druids. They're doing human sacrifices out in the woods as they worship Satan. Now, you don't tell me this is conspiracy. This is Bible. This is true. This is really happening. There is a spiritual warfare. There are God's people and there are Satan's people. And Satan's people want positions of power because they want Satan's kingdom. And a lot of people need to understand this. They don't see this. They look at this and go, well, that just can't be true because it's so awful. It is awful, but it's real. I remember as a kid, my dad telling me, don't go out there. You know, someone will kidnap you and then they'll sacrifice you and kill you. And I'd always laugh. Oh, Dad, that won't happen. You can't go to Walmart without the little wall when you walk in of all the missing children. All over the world, people kidnap children and sacrifice them and kill them. And it's just really sad that it's true. There really is human sacrifice. There really are people that kill kids and rape little children and things like this. There's talk of those leaders that have been past presidents here in America. You know, Pizzagate, maybe you've heard of that, where they'll take little children and they'll rape them and kill them in their little island and things like this. There's movies that Hollywood makes, like Eyes Wide Shut and things like that, which I do not recommend you see. That's the most disgusting, vile, wicked thing. I don't even know why they make something like that. And yet, unless it's to expose what's really going on. And it's not even a tenth of how bad things really are. So all of this is included in witchcraft. Let's see. Should I mention its name? I will mention its name, but I'll change it a little bit. Hillary, the woman that wanted to be president. She's been connected and found out that she's connected with a woman who's a witch who used to do what they call spirit cookings. And you begin to look at this stuff, and they take the blood and semen and other things and paint on the wall, and they supposedly do sacrifices of children and things like that. Look, this is real. This is really taking place. And these people feel like they're empowered by abusing the innocent because they feel like Satan gives them power. I used to know somebody that knew Al Gore, and they found in Al Gore's hotel room one time, he had a suitcase full of blood, is according to what, they've said. Now, I can't confirm that. I don't know. So I'm just saying that's what someone told me. But from what I've understood and what I've read, what they do is they torture people, usually children. And as you torture these kids and you terrorize them, there's something that's injected into their blood. Is it a pheromone or what is it?
Adrenaline.
It's adrenaline, but there's also something else. And then once you take that child and you kill it, you take its blood immediately, you have that in the blood. And you begin to drink the blood. And as you drink the blood that has that in it, it gives you a high. These sickos, these disgusting excuses for human beings, they will drink the blood of people like that have been tortured to get a high. Now that is sick. But that's the kind of people that live in this world that follow Lucifer. And usually those are the ones in positions of power. I don't like talking about this. It's disgusting, but it's true. You need to know. Don't let your kids go out, unattended. There are people waiting to devour them and to do evil things. What does the Bible say Satan wants to do? He's a roaring lion seeking whom he may devour. If he cannot enslave you to take his mark, he can't beat you down to shut up and not talk about Jesus. If he can't eat you, then he'll do anything he can to destroy you. The devil is pure evil. So you've got these different groups, and they all use witchcraft. And it's amazing. If you look at Masonry, you know what Masonry is called? The craft. That's what they call Masonry, what they do, their practice. They call it the craft. And I believe it's in Daniel chapter 8. It says when the Antichrist comes, he'll cause craft to prosper. He'll bring in more secret societies doing these secret things. And I believe all this is tied together. I believe this is all real. And that's why I believe we're not just living in a life of, nothing's really bad in this world. We're living in a spiritual warfare in which there's God and his people, and then there's the devil and his demons and his legions. And if Jesus doesn't come soon, it's going to get really bad. We Americans were spoiled rotten. We have not been through things that the rest of the world has been through. You look at what Russia went through when the communists took over, and they would take a guy and put him in jail for 15, 20 years, like Popov, I think was his name. Then there was another famous guy who was a Russian that was put in jail for only being a Christian. And he was tortured day and night by these evil communists because he believed in God. So if Jesus doesn't come soon, it's going to get bad. And I hope it doesn't. But we are living in some very, very wicked, vile, ungodly times. So who are these globalists? Who are these people on the side of Lucifer? Well, they go by different names. Progressives. Have you ever heard anyone say they were progressive?
Have that auto insurance?
Except for progressive, Flow's okay, but that's a different progressive. But progressives are people that started early 1900s in America that were anti-constitutionalist. And they were in favor of basically get rid of the Constitution and change the laws with the times. And many of your Democrats are progressives, but there's also progressives that are Republicans. Here in the United States, at least in Florida where I live, I think it's next Tuesday is voting time. And people tell me all the time, well, Brother Breaker, it doesn't matter. I can't vote. Because how can I vote for somebody like that? Well, I tell people you're not voting for someone. You're voting against someone. Go there and show, look, I don't want a progressive. I want to vote against the progressive. And that's me saying, God, I know I can't do much, but I hate those demon-possessed, lying, devil, wicked people that sacrifice babies or whatever. And usually that's the side they're on, is the progressive side, the socialist, the communist, the anti-colonialist, the social justice, the Democrats. Yes, there's some bad Republicans too. So the conservatives would be supposedly the better ones, but they're not even that conservative. But do vote and try to vote against people, because we're seeing in this election more and more people coming out and just saying, no, I'm a progressive. Vote for me. And what are they saying? They're saying, I want the New World Order. Vote for me. Vote for me is a vote for Lucifer. And you go, well, what's the alternative? Because we don't want that. Because that leads to communists. And communist is the thing that the devil's used more than anything to kill over 100 million people.
Communism worked out great for Russia. Worked out really good for those guys.
Not. Killed so many of them. So as you study your Bible, as you read, as you look at the world as it really is, and that's what I'm trying to do, is paint a picture of what the world's really like. And when you see the world as it is, the Bible says, love not the world, nor the things that are in the world. This world doesn't have much to offer you, except evil and wickedness and ungodliness. And the more worldly you become, the more you get into Satan's realm. Because this is Satan's realm. This is Satan's world. My dad used to call the court system the devil's court system. Because you get into the devil's court system, it's not about caring about you because you're a Christian. You're nothing. They want what they can get. Masons steal property from people and steal things. And, many people that are in power, the judges and things like that, they abuse their power so they can rob and steal and cheat. If you're a Mason and you go to court, you stand up and you say, is there no justice for a widow's son? And if the judge is a Mason, he goes, hey, that's what we say. Okay, you're free to go. And they pervert justice. And it's not to do with righteousness and truth. It's evil. So you've got to understand how the world really is. The only thing that matters in this world is Jesus Christ and winning somebody to Jesus, so they're no longer under the power of Satan. Amen?
Amen. And bone broth.
And bone broth. Bone broth is good too. So here's how the devil works, okay? Just quickly. The banking system. The international bankers run the world. You have the IMF, the International Monetary Fund. Do you know the history of the Rothschilds? That's a really cool story. The Rothschild is from Red Shield. And there were some folks that, I don't even think they were Jews, but they claimed to be Jews. And they took the name Rothschilds and they began to lend money to the kings of Europe. And they literally took over the nations of Europe by lending money to the kings. And there were stories of kings literally bowing down to the Rothschild children. There were 5 brothers that were 5 sons of Rothschild. And one went to France, one went to Germany, one went here. And they all went to different countries, and they literally took over the country by taking over the banking system. And so I don't have time to get into that, but he who has the money has the power. Money is power, power is money. And so there are in this world those that are ruling that are the international bankers, and you have to watch out for them. And you know, I don't trust banks. I really don't. But I understand that that's how the devil does what he's doing, and he's going to bring in the mark of the beast through that system. So just understand that. A lot of the evil in this world is from the international banking system. In America, the Rockefellers worked for the Rothschilds, and they did a lot of evil. They set up the what's it called? The Jekyll Island creature, which is the what do they call it? Federal Reserve Bank, which is evil. But you got to pick your fights. I'm not going to go fight the Federal Reserve Bank. I'd rather win somebody to Jesus. Amen. It's
didn't work out so well for John F. Kennedy when he tried to do that.
If you know the history and you begin to look at all this and you know all of this, why was John F. Kennedy killed? Well, they say, well, because he was sleeping with the mob boss's wife. Okay, that's possibility. But he was coming up with these certificates that were going to be backed by, was it silver?
I'm not sure.
And he said, I want to get rid of the Federal Reserve Bank. And he was trying to get our money back in our hands and not to an evil Federal Reserve Bank. And it killed him. And then they took away his
Amazingly, the other guy that tried to do that, Abraham Lincoln, with his Lincoln dollar.
Exactly.
Same thing happened to him.
Yeah. And the old saying is follow the money trail. Follow the money trail. We still say today, it's not worth the greenback. I'm not a fan of Lincoln, but Lincoln did try to butt heads with the international bankers and try to set up a true monetary system, and he was murdered. And you look at a lot of the guys that were killed. There was a guy named Andrew Jackson.
Aren't they the only two that were actually assassinated? Lincoln.
There were about 5 or 6 people that were presidents that died suspiciously.
Well, they died, but I mean,
so they could have been assassinated by Jesuits. And a lot of Jesuits are behind a lot of this because
they didn't look under their bed for the Jesuits. I mean,
right. And it sounds funny and we can joke about it, but the Jesuits do. Look up the Jesuit oath sometime. It's disgusting. Jesuits are behind.
It's no more disgusting than the Freemason oath.
Yeah.
Okay. The Freemason oath is basically you're going to cut if you say anything that happens here, we're going to cut your belly open with your entrails out.
Tongue out.
That's pretty bad.
So Andrew Jackson was awesome. They tried to kill Andrew Jackson twice, and Andrew Jackson was against a central bank in America because the international bankers want to take over America by taking over the central bank, and he fought against it. And I like Andrew Jackson. I think he's awesome. A guy got in his coach one time and had a gun and pulled the trigger, and it was raining outside, and the guy's powder was wet, and it didn't go off. Andrew Jackson literally beat that guy to death with his cane. How dare you get in here and try to kill me? That's a real man. And he stood against the international banker. So the devil's using the banking system. The devil's using the governments of this world. What is the devil's plan? To enslave every human being to a one world government. So we should never, ever be in favor of globalism. So if you're a Christian, always be against globalism. Always be against a one world government. Never, ever does that work out good in the Bible, especially for Christians, because usually when they take over, the first person they kill is Christians and Jews. And then the education system. The education system in the world is to educate you into the idea of globalism and thinking how great it is if we all just got along in one world. But it's not good.
That's world peace. Doesn't everyone understand? It's world peace. If all the countries are united, it's world peace.
But how do they unite? Get rid of your guns. All right.
Guns and be.
Why do we need guns? We need guns to protect ourselves from evil people. The most evil people in history have been leaders of governments who are mentally insane, who are full of pride and power and what do they call it? Punch drunk on power, and then they go kill their own people. No, our founding fathers were pretty smart. Guns are to protect us from our government, mostly. Now, I don't want to fight. I don't want to fight anybody. I'm not going to go on the offensive and go shoot people. I will not go to a synagogue and do what this idiot did. But they're for defense. I need to defend myself and my wife and my kids from evil people. So that's something that we need to know. And how sad. Go ahead.
I think it's a very much so a fact that a lot of people aren't aware of, that no one ever teaches in school, is that government is the #1 killer of people.
Exactly.
It's not people killing people. It's not wars killing people. No, it's government killing their own people.
Yep. And usually it's because governments become so corrupt that the people don't even have any food. So rather than live right and do right for the people so that they can eat, the leader goes, let's just kill them, then we don't have to feed them. And that's what's so horrible about socialism and communism. It takes away your right to go work for yourself and earn a living and get what's yours. No, you can't have it. You have to give it to somebody else. Well, the government takes a cut first. And so when the communism takes over, it takes a cut from everybody and leaves everybody with absolutely nothing. And then it gives them a very little amount until the people are starving. And it's disgusting. The devil also uses the medical system, like we talked about earlier. It's disgusting what happens today in the medical system. My dad was studying to be a doctor. My dad wanted to be a doctor. And then he saw how evil it was. Most of the doctors are owned by the pharmaceutical companies. Pharmaceutical companies tell a doctor, if you'll sell my product, I'll give you so much % of every drug you sell. And so they're drug pushers, they're drug dealers. And God made everything in a way that he made in nature everything that'll heal us. My dad, instead of becoming a doctor, got into holistic medicine. And he got into, health food and things like that. So whatever's wrong with your body, there's something out there in nature. Either it's a vitamin or it's a mineral or it's an herb or something that can help you. Now, we've lost a lot of that. When they killed off the Indians in America, we lost a lot of knowledge on what tree is good for what. And that's really disgusting. If you want a neat study sometime, go to YouTube and look up Hoxsey, Hoxsey. Hoxsey was a man in America who started a cancer curing clinic. He cured cancer. He had an 80% cure rate of cancer. And the federal government went in and go, well, you're not licensed. We can't have this. And they shut them down. And all of your cancer clinics in Mexico across the border, they all go back to Hoxsey. And Hoxsey was taught by his dad, who was taught by a Native American Indian, this is what you do for cancer. And we've lost all that. So what do they do instead? Well, they say, well, this is the teaching in schools today is, well, there's evolution. And we're just from evolution. There's no God. God didn't create us and then make in nature the things to fix us. That's a bunch of bunk. No, we're just a cesspool of chemicals that rained on a rock for years. And so the best way to fix somebody is get in a laboratory, put a bunch of chemicals together, and then throw it at them, and then it'll heal them. Well, every time you get one of these chemicals, pills from a laboratory, they always have side effects. Have you ever watched on TV these horrible, what do they call them, commercials? For our drug, try our drug. And at the end of the commercial for like 5 seconds, his side effects may include blah, 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 and you're like, who wants that?
A lot of these ones, half of the commercial is the side effects.
Yeah, half
scrolling the entire thing.
So every time you give someone a chemical, it might fix that thing in their body, but it always causes a side effect where something else gets bad. And doctors know this. So when you come in and they get you hooked on that, they get a percentage of that, and they know it's going to make this go bad so that you would come back so they can give you another one. And then you get hooked on that. And next thing you know, you're on 20 or 30 drugs. And the doctor's giving you. And if somehow he could have given you the right thing from nature to cure that one thing, there'd been no side effects for those other things, you would have been better off.
And the doctors, the way that it goes today, too, I'm worked in the medical industry and the IT side of things. For the University of Minnesota, actually. And how it goes is, what is your insurance going to pay for? And the doctor can only give you what insurance is going to pay for. And if such and such drug is the only thing on an electronic medical record, okay, everything the computer tells you what you need to do. You say, we got this, I'm making this diagnosis. The computer comes up with, okay, you can prescribe these different drugs. It doesn't say B12 in there, man. No, it says you can prescribe whatever they say you can prescribe. And that's the doctor's options. Not that these doctors are bad people or trying to wreck people's health. Right. It's their job, man. That's their job. And because it's an electronic system, they can throw anybody in there from any country, from any sort of background, medical training, and say, well, just follow the computer screen, make your diagnosis, and the computer will tell you what to do. And
Yep.
that's why the medical record system has been mandated the way that it is.
Right.
Everybody has to have an electronic medical record system.
Right. And see, they teach doctors wrong to begin with, evolution theory rather than creation. And then the education system tells doctors, well, just throw this at it until it's better. And they don't teach them about the holistic medicine and the right way to heal yourself. So I'm not a doctor. I'm not telling people what to do. If somebody cuts your arm off with a machete, go to a doctor, please. But if you got a cold, chicken soup, vitamin C.
No,
I mean,
man.
There's other
bone
things
broth,
that you can
bone
do.
broth and colloidal silver is what you need.
Colloidal silver, bone broth, things like that.
I'm
There's
gonna-
a lot of things you can do.
I do joke about that stuff, but it is good. And it does
It is.
work. If you
It
get
really
sick,
does.
colloidal silver. If your dog is sick, put colloidal silver in their water. It works.
Now, we have a doctor here in Milton that's incredible. And this is people think this is quackery, but it's not. And the federal government will not recognize this as medicine. And what he does is he looks at your eyes. Now, it's called, let's see if I can remember the name of it, iridology. Iridology. He looks at either one of your eyes. Everything in your body, there's a vein that goes to your body and then comes to a part in your eye. So every part of your eye, it's like a map of what's going on in your body. And so this guy, he has the chart, and he comes and we go to him. He doesn't cost but like $50. We go to him once or twice a year, and he looks at your eye, and he looks at it, he draws it out. He says, so you've been having some problems with your left hip? Yeah, it's kind of, okay, here's what you need. What's wrong with your right arm, Robert? Oh, well, I fell the other day and I hurt it. And it shows in your eye. And what does the Bible say? The Bible says the light of the body is the eye. So I asked him about this. Where does this come from? Because it sounds like, something Chinese would have come up with. He goes, no, this started in about the 1500s. The Germans, always the Germans, began to notice that in your eye, everybody's eye is like a fingerprint. It's different. But it's not just that's the way it is forever. It changes. They begin to ask, why does that always change, that eye? Because whatever's happening in your body, it shows up in the eye. So if you have something wrong in your body, it makes a little darker spot on that one little line. So like this line down here, that's your bowels. This line up here, well, that has to do with your nervous system. And this guy can look at your eyes and tell you what's wrong with you in less than 20 minutes. And then say, okay, how about we try some of this? How much should we try some of that? Old Dr. Ruckman used to go to this guy. And boy, he helped Dr. Ruckman. $50. And then you buy whatever the guy says to buy in the store that's good for you. Herbs, vitamins, minerals, different things. And it's cheaper than a hospital visit. It's insane how God has made these things a certain way. And yet we're taught today, no, only the doctor knows. And you have to listen to the doctor, do what he says. Most doctors are complete morons. All they care about is their tea time when they could go play golf. You're the least important thing in the world to them. Just throw something at you, a chemical, so they can go play golf again. And so they're not interested in actually helping people. And it's very sad. They're just interested in making money.
In the way of the electronic medical record system, as I was talking about before, the doctors actually get in trouble for giving you different advice than what the medical record system suggests that you give a person to solve a problem. That has happened many a times before, where a doctor will prescribe something, but he'll get in trouble for it because it wasn't something that is part of the hospital or whatever they're used to doing, and they're kind of considered to be a rogue, and they get in trouble for doing that. And
they do what others do, and they just follow their journals. They don't. So my dad died in 2010. We're sitting here in this very same office. He's sitting right there, and all of a sudden my dad just falls over on the floor. A blood vessel broke in the back of his head. Blood started to go all over and covered about a quarter of his brain. So the first thing I do is I go to the internet and I find that there is medical after medical after medical evidence of someone drilling a hole and letting the blood come out, and then it heals itself. So that's the first thing I told the doctor. And the doctor said, oh, well, it might work, but we don't do that here. I said, why not? I said, here, and I printed them up. Here's at least 5 cases where they did that, and it helped. Oh, well, we don't do that. I said, oh, all right, why don't you do that? Don't you care about people? I mean, what's the worst that could happen? Oh, well, so we're talking to this doctor. So we get this other doctor, and this other doctor says, Well, here's what I'm going to do. I said, whatever you do, doctor, don't do anything unless you write down and show me in writing what you want to give my dad. My dad does not believe in taking chemicals. He is very much against taking medicine unless it's a real. He doesn't want to take any kind of garbage chemical stuff. So it took a long time, and this doctor wrote down 4 different drugs that he wanted to give my dad. And he said, now these are going to help stop the bleeding. I said, okay, doctor, give me a minute. I went to the woman at the desk and I said, where's your physician's desk manual? She goes, oh, I got it right here. She pulls out the physician's desk manual. The physician's desk manual has all the different drugs. And you look up each one. It tells you what there's for. And it says, do not use this with this. It will cause this. I looked up all 4 of those drugs that doctor wanted to give my dad. And each one of them says, may cause heavy bleeding. Do not use with. And each one said, don't use with the other. I went to the doctor and I said, what are you trying to do? Kill him? Look at this. He goes, oh, I never looked at that before. So what's wrong with you? You're trying to kill my dad? I said, look, drill. And they wouldn't drill. They wouldn't drill. My dad lasted 3 days. And the doctor, we had to fight with him. And I said, we want carrot juice. We want to give him vitamin C. We gave him all these different holistic, natural things. And we didn't give him any of the stuff that the doctor would give him. And my dad died because the doctors would not drill a hole to allow that blood to come off. And my dad could have probably lived if they had drained it off and allowed it to heal. My dad passed away, and when he did, he didn't change white. You know, when people die, they're white. He looked as healthy as he could be. Both nurses came in and said, can't believe he just died. He looks so healthy. And the doctor said the same thing. So doctors will not do what you want them to do. They think they know best. There's a book by Robert Mendelsohn called The Confessions of a Medical Heretic. Get that book, The Confessions of a Medical Heretic. Robert Mendelsohn was a doctor. And he said the only 2 professions in which if a man came to you and told you to take off your clothes and you do it without thinking would be a Catholic priest and a doctor. And he said because they tell you unless you do what I say, you're going to die or you'll go to hell. So he wrote this whole book about how the Catholic Church is like the doctors. They try to scare you into do what I say or else this is going to happen to you. So if you get a chance, get that book by Robert Mendelsohn, Confessions of a Medical Heretic. Really good book. So, you know, the Bible says the love of money is the root of all evil. So you follow the money trail and you start to see things. And you start to add things up and put things together and you start to understand. Yeah, this is why this is so bad. The devil's killing people. He's teaching them falsehoods. He's not allowing us to find the truth that will help us. He just wants us dead or else his slave taking his mark. So this whole world is the devil's world now. Now Jesus gets it in the millennium and it's going to be so much better. But now the devil is running everything. And so don't follow the world. Follow the book. Follow the Bible. Follow the Lord. Amen.
Amen.
And the last thing the devil uses is religion. And boy, does he have his
I
religion.
think he started with that one, didn't he?
Yeah. And the Bible talks about the angel of light and how Satan appears as an angel of light. And is it 1 or 2 verses down? And what does it say? And it says, and no marvel that his ministers also appear as ministers of light. The devil has his own ministers, his own church, his own denominations, if you will.
And
Illuminati.
Illuminati means light.
Yeah. And he tries to get people to think that salvation is by your good works. And it's not. It's by trusting the finished work of Jesus Christ. So that's the New World Order. And it's screwed up. This whole world is, I hate to say it, FUBAR. I'm not going to tell you what that means if you don't know. But the devil has done a great job of FUBARing the entire world. And he's trying to bring about where he deceives everyone. That's what he's doing. So that he can rule over everyone.
Yeah.
Yep.
So that's what we got. Do we have anything else? I mean, there is so much that
I don't know.
Actually talk about with this. We could go into like it really should be subsectioned when we're talking about New World Order stuff.
Yeah.
I don't know. We've been rolling for.
I had a couple of books that I wanted to mention if people like to read. Sadly, people don't read a lot nowadays. But Carol Quigley wrote a book called Tragedy and Hope. That's a very good book that explains the whole New World Order. George Orwell wrote 1984. His real name was Eric Blair, but George Orwell wrote 1984. If you've never read 1984, okay, you've got Tragedy and Hope. That guy was the professor of Bill Clinton. And that guy decided he'd write a book that just basically exposes the New World Order, what they are, what their plan is.
He was paid to write that book, and that book is actually supposed to be for people that are inside the club.
So they'll know what the globalist agenda is, so they'll get on board. So that, Carol Quigley, Tragedy and Hope, that's a good book. Eric Blair or George Orwell's 1984. One of the saddest books I've ever read. But that's basically what the goal of the Illuminati is. Put people in go-nowhere jobs to where they're just slaves, and they're happier committing suicide than living. And then Aldous Huxley wrote A Brave New World. If you never read A Brave New World, you need to read that. Oh, man, that is the worst. And that's what we're seeing the world become, Satan manipulating DNA. And many people have thought that when the Antichrist gives the mark of the beast, it will somehow manipulate the DNA of a person to where they're no longer a human being. They're literally the seed of Satan in some way or shape or form or something. And that's why God has to put them in hell when he comes back, because they're no longer human. They're more like beasts. So I don't know that, but those books, if you read those books, you get an idea of what Satan's idea is. Okay. So that is globalism. That is the New World Order. That's the Novus Ordo Seclorum. And if you hear politicians talking about how they want that, and how that's a good thing, and how they're in favor of it, those are the ones you need to vote against. Go vote against them. Don't go vote for someone. Vote against those that are in favor of the New World Order. That's the way I look at it.
Yep.
And what are some other good books?
As far as New World Order stuff, I am not sure.
Okay, well, there's lots of them.
As far as like end times movies, I'm trying to pull it up here. I'll get to it here in a sec. I think it's like,
yeah, there's a lot of movies about it. There's one called Skulls.
There's the one specifically where you're talking about where when people take the mark, they don't become themselves. It changes their DNA to the fact that they just can't get saved because they're just not capable of doing it.
Yeah. There's a movie called Skulls. If you've ever seen Skulls, that's an excellent movie. It explains the Skull and Bone Society and what it's like to be inside of it. And I don't think it's dirty. I don't think there's any bad words in it. There's a book called The Prince by Machiavelli. I don't know if you've ever read that, but if the devil were ever to write a book, that would be the devil's book, The Prince by Machiavelli. That is a weird book, telling you how to kill people in order to take over a government and control people and rule people. So that's an evil book. And then there's that guy, Che Guevara. Oh, he was evil. He wrote an evil book and how to kill people. So there's a lot of books that if you read, you get an understanding of the mind of Satan. He hates you. Satan hates human beings. He despises them. And he hates more than anything Christians. He wants them dead. So Satan doesn't love you. And I don't understand how anyone could love Satan, knowing that here's all Satan has to live for.
Great stuff in life, man. You get all this great stuff. You just all of a sudden become a superstar.
You know, Satan cannot be saved. Jesus didn't die on the cross for Satan. So all Satan has to live for is people around him in hell in torment for all eternity. So that he can look at them and laugh and go, ha, 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 you could have gotten saved, but I couldn't. Now you're with me, you moron. That's Satan. Who would want to follow that? I mean, it's sick. So, amen.
All right. Well, I guess we've been going for a bit, so
yeah,
we can rock and roll questions. People out there who have questions.
I forgot about questions. Oh no.
We can do at Robert or at Max, and it should pop up with our name and that will be a banner for us.
Animal Farm. That's another good book. Yeah, I'm glad someone mentioned that one. That shows you. Yeah.
The one I was thinking of is called 6 Mark of the Beast. I watched it a month ago or something, and I think that is my movie review on it, if it shows up in the chat.
Okay.
Sometimes I copy and paste stuff and it doesn't show up.
Is that a new movie? Because I never heard of it.
In like 2005, I think.
Wow, it's kind of old.
Stephen Baldwin.
Oh,
but
boy.
It's not your standard trope movie. where these people are trying to stop the chip, like changes people, and they're going to the master computer where they're going to blow up the computer to stop the chip and hopefully get people back to normal. And there's a lot of Christianity in there. It's just not a story. It's not fantastic. It's just not a story that has all the tropes that I see. I've been watching a lot of pure flicks, and a lot of those movies have the exact same trope. It's always, separated husband-wife couple. There's always a pastor who loses his faith. It's always the same thing. And this one was a little different. I liked it. All right. So what do we got? I'm going to scroll all the way up. What do we have for me? Holiday live stream, Valerie. Yeah, we can chat. I don't even know what you'd want to talk about. I guess have fun pagan day or something. I'm not sure.
Yeah, tomorrow is Halloween, Evil Day.
I do. I used to do pagan holiday special, but the website that I used that had every single pagan holiday on it has been shut down. So obviously, I don't study pagan holidays. So without that site, I can't do my deal. The less government involved in people's daily lives, the better. Yeah, that's called conservatism. The shepherd's ambassador, or what's the other word? The Ron Paulism. What do you call that?
I forget.
Libertarian.
Libertarian. Yeah. It's all about liberty. Yeah. Yep. Where the Spirit of the Lord is, there's liberty. Where the Spirit of the devil is, what is it? Bondage. So, yeah, you should want God in the Bible because you want liberty. You don't want to be slaves. But
Hey, Jason, you're going to do a commentary. Okay, cool. Glad you enjoyed it, Jason. And it looks like that's all there is for me. I really wish, Brett, you could have made it because you're the one who keeps an eye on chat the whole time. Yeah, that's all I got.
Have I got any? It's hard for me to scroll up.
Well, you're the only... They're not going to pop out for me.
The only one I saw was, did you plan on wearing camo? And I answered, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I got my new camo shirt. Got it on sale.
Asked if we went hunting together.
Oh, no. That would have been fun.
We went hunting for lost people.
There you go.
Christ.
Amen. Well, the Gospel's 1 Corinthians 15, 1-4. Amen.
Yeah.
And boy, how the devil hates that. He hates what Jesus did. So
I got CJPWI. Why weren't you in Green Bay with Robert? We didn't have a place to stay. And we don't have money to pay for hotels for that amount of time. And then our car needs an engine rebuild. So that's pretty much the summation.
So 3. Sounds like 3 excuses to me. You could have walked.
Well, there was a few different. It's 5.5 hours from where we live. But our car burns about 2 quarts of oil a month. And it's a fairly new car. And they said, don't put oil in it anymore. And we're just going to rebuild the engine. So that's what they're going to do.
So someone's asking. All right, go ahead.
Amy is asking me show my shirt. Some people.
Yeah, that was it. That was it. It's Infowars.com. That's Alex Jones.
Yep.
And he's very secular. Yeah.
And then I have
got the same thing.
Don't tread on me.
Yeah, that's what I got. We didn't plan that. How about that? If you know who Alex Jones is, he's got a lot of good information, a lot of good material. But like I said, he's secular. He claims to be a Christian. I don't know. But here's the thing. When I listen to Alex Jones, it brings me down. It drags me down because it's true. A lot of what he's saying is great, but it's so sad. So if I want to be uplifted and joyous and happy in the Lord, I don't listen to him that often. But I do like to know what's going on in the world, and he does give you, before the news happens, a lot of times what's going on. So if you can listen to Alex Jones, just don't let him drag you down into the dumps, which is oftentimes what happens.
It's absolutely impossible.
Yeah.
He's been going more and more and more into the fear market because he has more and more and more of his own products. And the whole thing is about getting you to fear things so you can buy a product to solve this fear that you have. And meanwhile, you're listening to Alex Jones. He does have some good information, but I think the last time I listened to him was maybe a year ago, and it was basically a commercial every 5 minutes, and he really didn't have anything to say except buy my boom, buy my boom rod. You know, I mean,
right? And it could be so much better, but it's not what he says, what he doesn't say. He could say so much more. So I just I would love to see him tell people how to get saved, because that's the one thing that's missing from there. He's not telling you what the gospel is. And you don't fight the New World Order physically. You fight it spiritually by getting people saved, because that's one less person the devil can rule over when he comes. Someone's asking any other books I put up there. My dad's, one of his favorite books was How to Get Well by Pavel Ariola. And it's a book about, if this is wrong with your body, these are the different kinds of herbs and vitamins and things that you can take. And it's a very good reference book for helping you if you've got problems. So I've posted that up there. Someone else asked something about the peace plan. I have not heard. I thought he was going to announce that already, Trump, and they've been putting it off. One thing I heard while I was up in Wisconsin, though, is that Israel is on the verge of war. They're being attacked ruthlessly by Hamas, and so it sounds almost like Israel's going to go to war to wipe out Hamas. And I say, great, because those are evil, wicked Muslim people. And what is Islam? Islam is the worship of Allah. And guess who Allah is? Allah is Satan. You can go to WorldNet Daily and type in Allah, God of Violence, and look up that old thing. The archaeologists have discovered in old 1700 BC a writing that Allah is the God who rebelled against the true God and tried to take over his throne in heaven. He's the God of war and violence. Who's that sound like?
You just got yourself kicked out of Europe.
Isaiah 14. Well, that's great, because I don't need to go there. If you're going to let Lucifer take over Europe, then I don't want to go there. But that's who Allah is. Allah is Satan. You've got to know that. And then it all makes sense. That's why we need to stay as far away from Allah as we can.
Yeah. Just so you know, it's against the law in most Western European countries to say anything bad about Muhammad at all.
Yep.
Otherwise, they will fine you. And people like me who do Christian channels, for some reason, my videos never make it over to these countries. And I disputed that fact. All I did was read an article where it said that this woman was fined for saying that Muhammad was a pedophile because he married a 6-year-old and consummated his marriage when the girl was 9, and said, how could anyone say this is not pedophilia? This is a news article that I am just reading. And this is fact. This is not, I am calling him nasty names. This is fact.
Right.
And YouTube says, nope, Max, no. We're not going to have your video up. we're not going to deal with you because we can't attack Muhammad. We can't do that. No. So let you know how bad things are.
Right. Yeah. It's just really sad. Yeah. And someone says Allah is the pagan god, the moon god. Yeah. Yeah. I had someone call me the other day, and we're talking about all throughout history, you have people that worship the sun and the moon. And it's interesting that the sun is a type of Christ. So what is the moon? You know, the light is Jesus. Well, what is the devil? He's trying to be a light. He's trying to mimic the true light. So, you know, I'm not saying that Jesus is the S-U-N. He's the S-O-N. But it's a type of Jesus Christ, the sun. And so the moon god is the false god. So any way you look at Allah, he's not true. He's not the true God. And if that makes you evil for saying that, well, then good. Because Paul says, have I therefore become your enemy because I tell you the truth? And we're living in a day and age when you're not allowed to say truth. Someone wrote right here, Muhammad was a pedo. Amen. That's 100% truth. He had sex with a little girl. That's a pedophile. Mm-hmm. That's a devil. That should be hung, anybody that does that, because that's sick. And it's not right. It's not right. And yet we're supposed to cower down to those people? I can't do it. I have to defend the poor little girls so they don't get raped. And I think that's horrible what that dirtbag did. That's disgusting.
So I have a question from Sarah Finley. And I don't know about anything about these the Ashkenazi Jews. Robert Breaker, are the Ashkenazi Jews the ones who claim they are Jews but are not?
I'm not going to get into that because I don't know enough about that.
Yeah, I don't know anything about
there
the
are
Ashkenazi
different
Jews.
types of Jews. There are some that claim to be Jews that aren't. Are they the ones that aren't? I don't know.
Oh man, there's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of African guys. They're like, Jews.
The black Jews.
We're all just black people. I'm like,
so what I'm going to do is ask the Lord when I get to heaven, But it is funny that those Jews are called the Ashkenazi Jews, Nazi, N-A-Z-I on the end. I thought the Nazis killed the Jews, so it's kind of funny. But I want to study more about that. I don't like getting into stuff that I don't know enough about.
Yeah, I don't know anything about him either.
And then then preach on it, and then you find out you're wrong later. So I don't know. So I don't know. Petty
What
file.
verse says, Pancake Cow, Max, what verse says the Antichrist will rule the entire earth?
We looked at several of those.
Yeah, David, chapter 4, I think. No, Daniel. David.
Okay, and I read
Daniel
several.
Daniel 7:23. Thus he said, the fourth beast shall be the fourth kingdom upon the earth, which shall be diverse from all kingdoms, and shall devour the whole earth, and shall tread it down and break it to pieces. Is that? And of course, in Revelation, you have that whole deal. And we've covered Revelation for like the last 3 times that we've been on. Yeah. So,
and I read several verses at the beginning of this in case you missed it about that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Someone's asking about the economic collapse. There must be an economic collapse eventually, so that people are forced to take the mark of the beast. But when? That's the question. I don't know.
Be now.
So
it ain't going to be now. There's one thing about Donald Trump: unemployment is the lowest it's been since 1960.
Right.
I mean,
and
under Obama, check this out. Under Obama, all the Mexicans and Spanish people, whatever, immigrants, whatever you want to call them, migrant workers, they all left. They all went back home under Obama because there was no jobs anywhere for them to do. Trump's in town, jobs everywhere. Everybody has a now hiring sign in my little town. Everybody. And we got the flood coming up from Mexico for everyone coming back to go work. I mean, it's one of those political things, but it is pretty funny. There ain't going to be an economic collapse as long as Trump is in charge. It's not going to happen. They're going to get another Obama in there, and he's going to wreck everything. This is what's going to happen.
Now, if there is an economic collapse, that's something to think about before the rapture. Having a bunch of dollar bills isn't going to cut it. So, if you've got a whole bunch of dollar bills and the economic collapse happens, what if people no longer want dollars? So, people say buy silver, buy whatever you buy something that's useful that you can barter with. You know what's going to be the most sought after commodity if the collapse takes place?
Bone broth.
Toilet paper. Think about it. Everyone's out of toilet paper. You'd be the richest man in the world if you had a shed full of toilet paper. What do you trade me for it? 20 chickens. I just need some toilet paper. So, someone says ammo. Yeah, you can trade ammo, but I don't want people to know I have ammo, So don't buy gold. Gold is more valuable than silver. Buy little dimes, silver dimes. And you don't want a 1 ounce silver round and say, hey, will you give me a piece of bread? You say, well, I'll have this little tiny piece of silver. Okay. And there's just things you can have, but think about, what can I have that is good in case the economy does collapse, and just store it away. Don't go into debt buying it. If you have extra money, buy some, and then just keep it. Like food. You can never go wrong having stored food. Even if you don't use it. It lasts 25 years, and who can use it? Somebody in the tribulation, so they don't take the mark of the beast. They just might live off of your food storage. Seeds. You can buy these different kind of seeds, heirloom seeds, not GMO, in a package that lasts like 20 years. Never know when you might need those seeds. So just things to think about. But I'm telling you can't go wrong with toilet paper, man. That'll be the thing to trade in the future because people will want that.
Yeah, and it's not like the New World Order is just going to happen like right overnight. We've been watching it happen for years and years, and it's just slowly getting there. And depending on who's in power, it goes fast, and then it slows down a little bit. And then it goes fast, and then it slows down a little bit. And then we go fast, and then it slows down a little bit.
And it's slowing down under Trump because he makes the appearance of he's anti-globalist, anti-New World Order, and that's great. And I just sit there and go, yay! But what if he's gone tomorrow, and the next guy comes in and keeps going the way.
What if somebody tries to take him out because they don't like his opinion on
exactly? Yeah. What verse says the Antichrist will rule the entire world? We told you that, and I've given you several in the beginning, so you've got those verses. Yep.
Got one here. What about Daniel 11? Sounds like Antichrist, verse 34, 38.
Well, Daniel 11 is pretty amazing because it talks about
There
the
is no-
Antichrist.
Yeah, there is no verse 34, 38 in Daniel 11.
So they're thinking of something else. But
Oh,
in
wait.
Daniel 11,
Maybe no, I'm on the wrong thing. I was on Revelation 11. 34. Now they shall fall, and they shall holpen with a little help. But many shall cleave unto them with flatteries, and some of them shall be understanding shall fall to them, till they purge and make them white, even to the time of the end, because it is yet time appointed. And the king shall do according to his will, and he shall exalt himself and magnify himself above every god, and shall speak marvelous things against the gods of gods, and shall prosper till indignation be accomplished. For that is determined shall be done. Neither shall he regard the God of his fathers, nor desire of women, nor regard of any God, for he shall magnify himself above all. Sounds like an earthly God, but I guess I haven't read through.
well, I think it's talking about the Antichrist there in 11.
Yeah,
but I don't have time to read that. But there's some interesting stuff there because some of the stuff that happens there sounds like Obama.
Oh yeah,
I mean, it really does.
Everybody. They had to recut that movie, the Bible movie, because the guy they had play Satan looked just like Obama.
Yeah, isn't that funny? But
I don't think they were far off, and I don't think that they did that on accident. I don't.
What are your thoughts on what will be the one world currency? Well, it's going to be a mark in the right hand of the forehead, so it's probably some sort of a chip, or something that holds your account number in which you use that. So all money will be in a form of a computer or a computer chip. There was an odd movie I saw several years ago in which a person had time, and that's how much time they had to live, and it was like money. They could get more time. You know which one I'm talking about? It had that Justin Timberlake in it.
Oh man,
Timeline was
very
it?
familiar.
Time something. I thought that was interesting, but it sounds like the chip will hold your money. Now, there's a thing called Nesara, Nesara, and it's supposedly, and I don't even know if it's true, but I've read it. They've said that the international bankers are guilty of stealing from everyone. Mm-hmm. And so if you take what they've stolen, everyone in the world can have $5 to $7 million. And so Nesara is supposedly the National Economic something Restore Act or something. And it says that, everyone should be restored what was taken from them. So can you imagine if the Antichrist, when he shows up, he says, you know what? Everybody really deserves $5 million. So if you'll stand in this line over here and take this little chip, well, we'll put $5 million on that chip. And you can just go spend, spend, spend. Mm-hmm. I mean, that'd be a long line of people saying, I want $5 million. How few people will say, no, cut off my head?
$5 million at that point would be worth about $5,000.
Well, or it could be worth more. It just all depends. But it will be incentive for someone to say, yeah, I'll take that. That's 5 million reasons for me to not get my head cut off. And yet it'll make you look stupid when you're the one that says, no, I want my head cut off. What about Bitcoin? I think Bitcoin is kind of the start. All you have to do is put the Bitcoin account into a chip, and there you got the mark of the beast. So Bitcoin, I think, is heading toward that, and it could very well be.
You got any more? On your end? I don't see anything.
Let me look one more time. Can you explain the meaning of calling on the name of the Lord? I think that's a different subject. Kind of off stream. We've talked about that before. Yeah. I like 2 Timothy 2:22. It says, they that call upon the Lord of a pure heart. So calling on the Lord is not just with your mouth saying, oh, Jesus. It's something to do with something coming from your heart, not just from your mouth. And a lot of people don't understand that. And it's so sad. They think if you just say with your mouth, Jesus, then you're saved. Because the Bible says, whosoever shall call upon the name of the Lord shall be saved. Okay, I'm a lost carpenter putting a new roof on a house, and boom, I hit my finger with a hammer. Oh, Jesus, I just got saved, right? Because I called. No, it's coming from the heart. It must be accompanied by faith. And so the calling is by faith. Yes, it can come out the mouth, but it should come from the heart. So I don't have time to talk about calling upon the name of the Lord, but there are some people out there who we will not name who do not understand that. And they erroneously tell people that calling on the name of the Lord is only with your mouth, and that if your mouth you say, "Oh, Jesus, save me," then they say you're mystically, suddenly saved. And they omit salvation by faith from the heart. So they make salvation with the mouth, not by believing from the heart. Those people are not teaching the Bible as it's supposed to be taught. Salvation is not something you say or you pray. It's when you believe from the heart.
Is that what Romans Road is?
Well, the Romans Road, from my understanding, was started by a guy named Jack Hyles. And it's basically, he went to Romans and he said, let's take a couple verses out and let's use those verses for how to get saved. And the last verse is always Romans 10:13. And usually now it's only 4 verses. So you tell a person these 4 verses and then you say, now pray after me or repeat after me or ask Jesus to save you, based upon Romans 10:13 and the twisting of the word calling.
But that is actually what the Romans wrote, because that's kind of what I thought.
Right. Now, you can take a Romans road and have other verses in Romans and then say, now trust. And I do that. I take people to Romans a lot and tell them, trust these verses. But I don't twist a verse out of context and tell them that call means with the mouth only, when the very next couple of verses say you got to believe from the heart and the calling is from the heart. The righteousness which is of faith speaketh on this wise, say not in thy heart. It's got to come from the heart, the belief, not just...
Even I had questions for Robert Breaker. How about that?
Amen.
RFID, the possible mark of the beast, Bitcoin. No, the mark of the beast is going to be a national system. What's going to happen first is everyone's going to agree on a currency, just like they have in EU right now, where they have the European, whatever they call the thing. And that will be the international currency, and everyone will still keep their own currency, but you'll still have this international thing, and the values are going to change between your country's home currency and the international currency. And eventually, as things get more conglomerated, it's going to go into a digital system, because who needs to know what the value of which money should I use? My international money, or should I use my money that's in my town? Well, if I had a chip, it would just take care of that for me. And that's the way that I see it's going to roll out. That's how we see it.
Yep. So the mark of the beast, remember, is 3 parts: the name, the number, and the mark. Someone says there's someone now that's making people take a chip in their hand. Yes, that's true. But that's just the mark, the chip. Where's the name and where's the number? So it has to be all 3 to be the mark of the beast. And it can't happen before the rapture. So it'll be all 3. So when you take that chip and that mark, the number is 666. But there's going to be a name. And you are going to literally be chattel. You're going to be cattle. You're going to be saying, by taking that mark, that I worship the one-man ruler. If you remember World War II, if you studied World War II, Hitler made all soldiers make a vow to him. So when you became a soldier in the army of Germany, you had to literally take a vow to Adolf Hitler to serve him. That's a precursor of the Antichrist. When the Antichrist comes and you take your mark, you will probably, at that very same moment you take that mark, take a vow: I will serve you, Antichrist, forever. That's a scary thing, to make a vow like that to a man. That is very scary. Allegiance to a person. No, you have an allegiance to a flag if you're from a country. But to make an allegiance unto death, to die for some man, that's creepy. That's really creepy. Yeah, I would have rather died than make an allegiance to Hitler if I lived in Germany.
Before the rapture happens and things, they're trying out different deals with the computer chips, and a lot of militaries are actually, if you join the military, that's just part of being in the military. Rather than wearing dog tags, they just chip you. That's not the mark of the beast.
Right.
It's the thing that they're doing to test it out, make sure it works. And it does make sense, if you're a military guy, not to have your dog tags so no one knows who you are. They could just chip you.
Right.
It kind of does.
But I wouldn't want that.
No.
Definitely don't want that.
I mean, you don't need to don't go get chipped just so you can buy groceries quicker.
Yep.
Everyone knows you got a whole pocketbook full of coupons anyway.
Look for somebody's house that has storable food. And live there for 7 years. Yeah. Hopefully.
That's what they said. There's a lot of preppers out there, and that's kind of the ongoing joke. As people that are in the prepper community, and they talk amongst themselves, and I don't remember who the speaker's name was, but they said, "What are you doing to prepare for the end times?" And he goes, "Well, I just bought a gun." And he goes, "Really? That's it?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah." I'm like, "No storable food, and you got a pilot's license?" And I'm like, "Well, yeah, but I got a gun. I can just take the food from people."
Yeah.
So his prepping plan is basically to rob everybody.
And that's great. Now he's a thief.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I wouldn't want that plan, because the guy's got a 308. He could hit you from a couple hundred yards before you even get to his house, and then he takes your gun when he goes to your dead body. So it's not a very smart plan.
Okay, Pancake Cow, one person in chat is very confused about salvation. First Corinthians 1-4.
Yep, I put that up earlier. It's trusting the blood atonement of Christ. What he did, he shed his blood for our sins. You trust what he did, you're saved. It's nothing that you do. It's trusting what he's done.
Yeah.
Amen.
So any questions, even if they're off topic, put them in the actual, not the chat, but the comment section, and I'll try and keep an eye on it. Mm-hmm. And yeah, I think that's what we've been going for. Well,
the main thing we were trying to present was the New World Order, how the world really is. And this whole world system is the devil set up. So that's what you got a hold of. Don't covet the things of the world, because they're the things of Satan. Covet the things of God. It says, lay up your treasures in heaven. And that's what we should do. We shouldn't care about the things down here. But with that said, make preparations down here. Think about other people. How can you help people? But most importantly, how do you get them saved? How can I help someone get saved? And take someone with you to heaven when the rapture comes. So that's it. And we do have a privilege of voting. So go vote out the evil. And you say, well, which one's evil? Well, both of them. So vote against the worst one. I mean, and then when the next time comes, vote the other guy. I mean,
I did a video on that.
Yeah.
What's wrong with voting of the lesser of two evils? Absolutely nothing.
Exactly. I mean, you're never going to have a perfect candidate.
You're still voting for evil, and it's like everybody on the planet, unless Jesus Christ is running, is evil at some way, shape, or form. We all got some sort of flaws, and we're all going to hell without Jesus. So don't tell me that voting for the lesser of two evils is a bad thing. No.
It's a good thing. It's a good thing. Because all right. You're saying I'm against the evil, so I want the least evil.
I got this one was for you, but I'm going to take it from Aaron Good. I've heard from some YouTube videos that Sunday worship is possibly the mark. I personally think it's not. Aaron Good, that is a Seventh-day Adventist idea, and that is something that I'd been involved in for a while. And even Seventh-day Adventists don't believe that. That's a very, very, very out there idea for Seventh-day Adventists, but there are a lot that teach that you need to be going to church on Saturday and worshiping on Sunday is the mark of the beast, and that is what they teach. And they're the only ones that I'm aware of that teach that. So there we are. And we've been going for over 2 hours, so we're gonna have to close it down. Okay, we're gonna have to. We're gonna get food, do other stuff, and we can maybe pick this up on the same topic or something related to this next week. Maybe put your questions in the comment section, and thank you all for joining. It was fun talking, and hopefully next time Brett can be here.
Amen. Well, I hope it's a blessing to y'all. I hope you see things differently now and focus in on the Lord rather than the world. Amen.
And buy your storable food.
Amen. Bone broth, the bone broth.
Buy your silver.
Yeah.
You get your bone broth. You got to get my bone broth.
Right. It is funny, but it is good for you, and it can help. So study that too.
Yeah, there is a lot of that stuff that they put out that actually is good stuff. It's just like, I think I actually do have Survival Shield. I think they want like $30 for some iodine. And it's like,
good
what?
Stuff, though. Man, that's good stuff.
All right.
Yeah.
All right. Well, good night, everybody. Thank you for joining us. We'll see you soon in the future. With that, we are out of here.